Why would you tell me that? Do you want me to hate your girlfriend?
Okay.
Stupid.
Who?
I think that was
Mer-
possibly on audio, which is better. So, oof.
Okay.
Real good.
Like, oh boy.
And there we are.
Here we are.
Oh yeah, no, it popped up for me.
And here we go.
Boop, boop,
Perfect.
boop, boop.
And sound is working. So we are live.
Zah! We are live.
Huzzah.
Oh my gosh, I love this.
In a
Say,
boop, boop, boop.
it's been
Whoops.
so long.
Welcome back, everybody who has yet to join us, because we're still not in.
Still getting started.
Yes, we haven't even gotten started. But welcome back to the future people.
But we are the future.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. So, I mean, we've already
Oh,
been chatting,
thank you,
but
man.
how is everyone else out there doing?
I'm eating a cookie right now, so that's pretty good.
I'm doing pretty good.
I'm doing
I'm
good.
working on trying to collapse society as we know it, but I'm failing right now.
You know what?
That sounds like you're on.
I 100% support your endeavor in
Give me a little
collapsing
smooch.
society.
Thank you.
A smooch?
Yeah, I'm wooing Elliot, even though I'm a married man.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, wow. Are you trying to stir up some drama?
Absolutely, I am.
Where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in no drama?
I'm trying to get into like some sort of polyamorous relationship with Sebastian and Elliot, but you know, slow going.
Slow going. Sometimes that's just how it be. That's how it
Yes.
do be. Doobie doobie dooba doobie doobie dooba. Polyamorous.
All right, should we get started then?
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's
So
do
we've kind
this.
of already been started.
Need that.
We've already been started. We're just a chit chatting.
Just chit chatting.
Camille's harem. We never start.
Oh no.
Ain't that just the harshest truth?
Ain't that just the way?
Oh, hello.
Someone cue Greg. How do you like that? All right. Well, so everyone, welcome. This is surprisingly, we're like a year into doing live streams off and on, and yeah, this is pretty awesome. So we've got a neat discussion for today, and for this discussion, we are joined by the one and only lovely Ron Starr. Give it up for him.
Oh, shucks, guys. Thanks.
You guys are in for a treat. Ron Starr has a perfect podcast voice, and he's
He really
just
does.
amazing to chat with. So we're in for a treat, and he's very good.
So excited.
He's very good at talking about books, which coincidentally is our
Is what
topic.
we're talking about.
Believe it or not,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about books because we talk about books here.
Yeah, we surprisingly do.
Yeah.
What's
Specifically today, we're going to be talking about some of the books that we've recently been reading, because yeah, like if we're going to constantly talk about writing and whatnot, like let's actually talk about some books. I know that I talk a lot about shows here on YouTube, but like let's give the books their love and appreciation. I actually have one of the books I've recently been reading right next to me. It's now in my hands. Oh, it smells so good too. It's a good used books it's a good used book smell.
give it a good old whiff for me.
I'll do it
For a
again.
second there, I thought you were gonna plug your own book.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. I've got a copy of
farts.
Bleed, Steam, and Steel right next to me as well. It's
What
right
a coincidence.
What a coincidence! So that means that right next to me, I have the Fellowship of the Ring, Titan Games, or I should say, Champion of the Titan Games, and Bleed, Steam, and Steel.
Nice.
And Bleed Steam and
Bleed
Steel.
Steam and Steel on my nightstand.
Oh, ooh, that's just a good book smell.
Yeah. So on my reading
That's
list this year.
That's a new book.
Yes.
That's a new book smell.
It's a new book smell.
I myself am very excited to read the final finished product of Bleed Steam and Steel because I read it when it was still like
A wee babe.
alpha. Yeah, when it was still the alpha book. And, it was so fun.
Oh yeah.
I can't
Oh,
imagine
it's
it's
just-
any better.
I was
whoa,
gonna
whoa.
say it's only gotten better with age. It's like a fine, fine wine.
Fine cheese. Oh, wine.
Mm-mm.
Okay, apparently I cannot use that. Wait, so what was the book you were actually talking about? Oh,
The book that one of the books I'm going to talk about today is the Champion of the Titan games. I just
the
was
Brandon
reading.
Mole one, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is Brandon Mole back on his A game. I was
really?
growing worried. I was growing worried because after the Five Kingdoms and his newest series Dragon Watch, like I like Dragon Watch, but oh boy, the second and third books, those were rough to get through. Like there's a lot of stuff that now, thanks to the fourth book, in retrospect, from the third book especially, is super important. But man, those were hard books to slog through. But the fourth book is just it's so freaking fantastic. And
Okay, I have a question.
Hmm?
Because I'm trying to remember what all I've read what my child is running around. Get out of the fridge. Sorry. I'm inside my house in Stardew. I
we're
know
sorry, we
that.
should probably make Stardew big for our viewers.
Oh yeah. So they can
Wait,
see. Look at my son. I forgot what his name is.
What's going on? There we go.
I think it's Kerbis. I don't remember. Anyway, I know that I've read Beyonders and Fablehaven by Brandon Mull, and I know that what is it, Dragon Watch or the Five Kingdoms that is in the same universe as Fablehaven?
Dragon Watch is in the same universe. It's a direct
It's a
sequel.
direct sequel.
Okay, thank you. So, does this new series tie into any of his previous works?
Other than Fablehaven?
The Titan one
Yeah.
ties into Fablehaven?
It's
Oh yeah,
part of Dragon
absolutely.
Watch.
Yeah. Seth
Oh.
and Kendra are the main characters.
Oh, that's sick. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I will say that a little gripe of mine is that Warren is not as cool as he was in the earlier books.
Aw.
Because I'm like, I freaking love Warren. Like in the Society of the Evening Star, like when he comes to and he just starts owning everyone. I'm like, whoa, where has this guy been this whole time?
Forgot who that character was.
He's the guy who in the first book is like he's like catatonic. Like they have to move him and everything.
Is he
to
related to them?
He's a distant cousin.
Okay. Damn. I haven't read Fablehaven since high school. I need to reread them.
Oh yeah, I plan on rereading Fablehaven again, hopefully sometime soon, because this book right here gives a little more insight into Growlithe, like who he was and what he did. And holy cow, when he was like bragging to Seth about the things that he did as a demon, he was being modest. Like there's a chapter where like it's kind of an info dump chapter, but like you don't care because it's so much epicness getting dropped right on top of your head. Especially like if you enjoyed Growlithe's character in the Fablehaven series, because you're like, holy cow, like this guy screwed over literally every race in the world and got away with it. He got praised as a hero for it too. Like everyone was all like, dude, you're a hero. And he's like, ha ha, I just screwed you all over. And I got like half of the elves and fairies murdered. Like, all in a day. And you're just like,
Hey man.
All in a
like what? All in a day's work, and it's so insane. And all of these other elements that like like in Fablehaven, in the Fablehaven series, you're just like, okay, well, that's cool, that's cool. It's like it's just one of those things that we'll never really know about, but he just brought it up, and they're like, what? It's all coming back. It's all just like, ah,
Wait, so
oh,
is this like a
good.
prequel series to
No,
Fablehaven?
it's a sequel
It's
series.
also
It's
a
just
sequel. Damn.
yeah, and like it just the thing is that there, as I said, there's just like an info dump chapter where you learn about what Growlithe did because Growlithe is still dead, at least most likely. I don't think he's coming back. I haven't gotten that
I'm gonna
far in the
pretend
series.
like I remember who he is. But go on.
He he's the guy who makes Seth a shadow charmer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Damn, I really do need to reread these. Ooh, my wine.
and he just yeah, oh my gosh, like just as I said, just like learning about like all the things that he did
He's a
is
rascally boy.
just absolutely nuts. And
Rascally Wabbit.
there's so much good lore that gets dropped. There's so much good character development, and there's also a scene that I feel was written just for me because there's a character I absolutely hate in these new books, and like Seth is just blows him off so epically, and I'm like, thank you,
This
thank you
is my
for
hole. It
writing
was
that.
made for me.
Yeah. Like this character is absolutely worthless and pointless, so thank you.
Is it the
Shutting him
one that I'm
down.
thinking of? The bully?
No, not the bully. It's a cousin of theirs that they mention in the first book, and you never see him throughout the entire Fablehaven series. But he
Oh,
shows up in the first book of Dragon Watch, and he is just like he's like Seth from the first Fablehaven book, but
ew.
like on steroids in terms
Oh
of
no.
annoyingness. And you're just all like, murder him, murder him.
This wait. Honestly, I would say Seth for me in the first Fablehaven book was not necessarily annoying, but just so infuriating.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Holy crap, yes.
I
Oh,
was like,
infuriating.
someone put this man in a straitjacket so he can stop doing stupid shit. That's who Seth was. Ooh.
I mean, I feel
Yes.
like his character got better, but like those first few books were just horrendous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he gets way better. I mean, Seth, I like Seth as a character in the third book when he begins to realize that he's like screwed up certain things, and so he starts trying to do better, and
Mhm.
then the consequences of his actions actually mean something, and so he develops as a character. And so like later on in Dragon Watch, like he when the fifth book when the singing sisters meet him and they're all like and they get all excited, they're like, this one is like Patton, who is like, I love Patton. Patton is the freaking best.
He's a good boy. He
in,
fun side note real quick. I
uh,
loved Patton as a character so much that if I ever have a son, I'm naming him Patton specifically because of that character. That's all. I love him.
Patton is amazing. Like here's the thing is that I wanted him to write a series just following Patton's adventures because Patton is just so freaking
Oh,
cool.
even just one
And
book would be
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah, and the thing is that Seth, because like the singing sisters say that Seth is like the next Patton. Dragon Watch is like Seth becoming Patton. That's like one
Interesting.
of like it's like one of like the main themes throughout
Mhm.
of like him becoming the new famous adventurer who he isn't doing it because he is an adventurer or because he's a young guy who can just get away with whatever he wants, who just wants to see the world. Like Seth is becoming just like Patton, who was like he was a young foolish guy who did stuff that he probably shouldn't have, learned from it, and then
Mhm.
realized, oh my gosh, the world I've gotten myself into is so big and so dangerous. I need to do my part to like protect it. And that's kind of who
Mhm.
Seth is becoming.
That's
And
that's actually a
and
really cool arc for him.
yeah, it's really good. And I also like that Kendra stops being such a goody goody
Yeah.
in Dragon Watch. Like she makes some really big mistakes that like
Hmm.
finally she gets she gets a certain comeuppance where it's like she has to realize that just being good doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win. That
Mhm.
you have to take risks. You have to sometimes do like the bad thing, in a horrible situation, and it's nice to see Kendra evolve into a much wiser character and not just be like, I'll be good and everything will
Yeah.
turn out well because the fairy queen loves me. I'm not gonna spoil certain things from the book, but like it's nice to also see that Kendra like basically like loses at later on in the series. Like she loses a lot of the things that like made her OP, I guess you could say,
Mm.
where it's like no nothing can touch Kendra. And at this point in the series, like Kendra is at the weakest she's been since like book one. But now
Oh,
she's
interesting.
wiser. She's wiser, she's better, and we actually get to see her acting on that and making like good decisions, not because she's a goody goody, but because she's
Right.
being a wise caretaker and trying to save the world.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
That's interesting.
that is interesting.
but yeah,
I'll add it to my. I think next year I might do a deep. I'm kind of doing a Neil Gaiman deep dive this year, so next year might be my Brandon Mull deep dive.
yeah, I definitely have to. I feel so bad. I've got a small pile of books that are right now also glaring at me, wanting to be read, and I promised my sister I'd read The Black Prism,
Hmm.
and I haven't yet done it. It's right there, and I'm like, oh,
You'll get there eventually.
I'll get
That's
there.
what I tell myself. Boop, boop. Well, that sounds absolutely delightful.
Yes.
That sounds bloody
I've
lovely.
talked enough about one of my books. I do have another, but I'll let you guys go on your own fantastic rants.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yes. One that I've been reading, and I've been reading this for a while because I keep getting distracted and not finishing it, is Fish in a Tree. And as you know from the last, not resort, wow.
Retreat.
The retreat.
Retreat.
Thank you, sheesh. That it is an absolutely lovely book. It is about a, I think, third, fourth elementary school student. I don't actually know what grade. But she basically struggles with dyslexia, but she doesn't realize that she has dyslexia, and she just kind of has like difficulty paying attention or difficulty reading, and she like basically, instead of like facing and like admitting that she has a problem like reading and understanding, those kind of things, she basically just causes trouble, to kind of get out of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that book too.
Yeah,
It was a good one.
it's been such a fun read, and it really kind of brings in a lot of like, I mean, obviously this is, a more grounded fiction book, but these
Mhm.
kind of experiences that this character goes through as she kind of learns to deal with her dyslexia, as she meets a teacher who's willing to work with her, work through it with her, she begins to like, open up, like gain friendships, learn to face her difficulties and stuff. And that's something that you can really draw from in all of your stories, even in a lot of my like fantasy novels. Like, yes, there's a great evil that they have to vanquish, but the most important battles that you will ever have in your novels are the battles that your characters have with themselves. And I think that this is a great example of like kind of what you can do with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That book, it reminds me of I read it in like third or fourth grade, and I think it's called, oh shoot.
Mind out of
No, it's either called There's a Boy in the Girls' Bathroom or The Boy in the Girls' Bathroom.
Oh.
Something like
The
that.
Boy in the Girl's Bathroom. That's a good one.
Yes, it's so good. I remember reading that when I was a kid, because it kind of reminds me of that same concept of like this kid is a troublemaker, and kind of a bully, and you just get to see him grow as he works with the school counselor, and it's very grounded and it's very like character based. But I feel like stories like that, you really like, they're very tender to read because you get to grow with this character. Oh, so good.
That same author also did one of my favorites when I was a kid, the Wayside School series. I
I freaking love the
absolutely
Wayside
love that
Really?
series.
Yeah.
Who's the author?
Isn't that
Sashar is the last
Louis
name. It's like it's either Louis
It's
or
the same guy who
Louis.
did Holes.
Yes.
Oh,
Really?
oh, that's
Yeah. No, he's. I love that he can do multiple things. Like the Wayside School
Wow.
stories were just ridiculous and fun, and then Holes, obviously won like the Newbery Award winner. But he's got such a spectrum of style when he writes, and
Yeah.
I love authors that can do that.
Yeah.
There was another book. Who was the author that wrote Maniac McGee? That was another one I loved as a kid.
That one was Spinelli.
Yes, Jerry.
Yeah,
Was
Jerry
it Jerry?
Spinelli.
Oh,
Yes.
Sorry,
Oh, man.
I always call him by their last name because it's
Oh,
not my
that makes
favorite,
sense.
but yeah.
No, but see, this is why it's nice having Ron on, is because he's like a little
Book nerd.
library, a catalog. He remembers.
I've
Ron's
been a
worked
book
at
nerd
Barnes
since
and
I
Noble
was
for
4.
so long.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
at Barnes & Noble like, 28 years?
Ron has worked at Barnes and Noble longer than I've been alive. Let's just put it that way.
There you go.
How do you not own Barnes and Noble, or are you just like one of those people? It's like I
Barnes and
refuse to move
Noble.
on
Because Barnes
because I
and
love
Noble
the book.
It literally started as a part-time job to feed my book addiction, and then became a full-time job. But I recently stepped down. I got up to where I was a manager. I was training to become like assistant store manager and then store manager. I just didn't want that. It's too much of a headache.
Yeah,
And when COVID broke, that actually
kind of
I don't know.
solidified
I was
it.
like, I'm done with retail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
COVID
yeah.
brought me out of retail too. And now I get to
I'm
sit
glad
at
I
home
already
all
left
day in
retail.
my underwear and stare at a computer.
Hell yeah,
Stare at a computer programming.
relatable.
Programming.
Hey, living the dream. You worked
Yeah.
hard. You worked hard for that job. You deserved it.
You
Well,
did.
thank you. I
Period.
did work hard.
He works hard for the money.
I worked hard to. It's real tough work to roll out of bed and put at least
Yeah.
an article of clothing on. A singular.
And walk 10 feet.
He wears his man robe.
Yeah.
I just honestly, it's different loungewear. You like after a few days, you're like, okay, I'll change into different loungewear.
Oh
That's
no.
what your work
All right.
attire is.
Back to books. What's the next book?
Hey, what do you know? It's the guide of how to wear your own lawn.
Another
So-
book I've been reading lately. Oh, sorry. Actually, somebody else take the lead. Ron, you go.
So
Yeah,
I was
Ron, go ahead.
I was gonna say and I've espoused this a few times with you guys as well as in the Camille's Harem, but T.J. Klune. I cannot recommend him enough. I love his writing style. I love every book I've read by him so far. I thought I had read them all, and then found out there was like 4 or 5 more books that I haven't read, so I was super excited about that. But yeah, I like the first book of his I read was The House in the Cerulean Sea, which was like that one was the whole reason I ever even gave it a try is one of my coworkers, Charlotte, was like, she was telling me about the book, and one of the characters is this like amorphous blob that wants to be a bellhop, and I was like, say less, let's do this. So that's literally why I read it, and it was so good. It was just, I don't know, it kind of reminded me of like the Peculiar Home, or the Home for Peculiar Children.
Oh,
Right,
Like, yeah, a mix of like that with like, I want to say X-Men, but not. Like, I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm doing it justice in that. But the main character is just this like unexpected. He does his job, and he's very about like doing his job well, and you get that he like cares about the kids, but he also seems kind of standoffish, and he ends up having to go out to there's these homes for children with like ordinary abilities, anyway, he ends up going to this one that's like the extreme of extreme, and is quote unquote the extreme of extreme. But he's tasked with basically trying to do one thing. I don't want to give spoilers because if you read it, he's tasked with doing one thing, but then this other stuff happens. And legitimately, at the end of the book, I was like, I had like a tear go down my cheek because of like how beautiful it was, and I was not expecting that. And it was one of those books that when I read it, I was just excited about the blob wanting to be a bellhop, and that's like a minor part of the story. All this other stuff happens, and it really draws you in. And I don't know, it was wonderful. So and the second one of his I read was The Under the Whispering Door, which was just as good. But every book I've read by him so far has just been. I've now put him in my top 20 of authors that I enjoy.
Oh, nice.
What was the name of this book?
Fiction. So the first book is The House in the Cerulean Sea.
Oh, okay, that's right.
And it's definitely it's not like a huge big read. I felt like I read it in one night, but I think an average person probably could get through it in about 2 or 3 nights. It's a pretty good read.
Yeah. Y'all are gonna make me just have a reading list a mile long.
Wait,
that's why I love like topics like this, because it's like if I haven't read the book and you guys are talking about it, I'm like, I want to read this now.
Yep.
I will read it.
Yeah, and the thing is reading is definitely my hyperfixation right now. So I'm like, I really just need to ride the wave and take advantage of it while it's something I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Because in 5 months, you're not going to really enjoy doing it.
Yeah, in 5 months, I'm not going to touch a single book.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Right now, I've been, as a person who has struggled with dyslexia, I've always struggled with reading books, but I've been thoroughly enjoying, as always, tons of audiobooks. But right now, I've actually been listening to the first Harry Potter book, which...
Oh.
Every time I read it, like, I just am reminded that it's like, this book isn't amazing, but it just has a charm that is fun. You know, it's just a fun book. You know?
Yeah, it definitely is charming.
Yeah,
for all its faults.
For all of its numerous faults. Like, it just has a charm, and it's like, sure, there's way more plot holes than should be acceptable.
Than a colander.
Yeah, well, here's the. I'm gonna say this kind of in defense of the first book, because it's like I see those plot holes, and for a part of me is just like, you know what, this book more so really than all of her other books in the series are like written really from the perspective of like kids who have no idea what's going on, because you even get small snippets of like Ron and Hermione's points of view. And it's just like they're kids. It's from their points of view. They, of course, have no idea really what's going on here. So I'm just like, I'll accept the plot holes. Magical world, and you're absolutely right. Like, there's such a charm to it. It's like, how do you replicate that? And she's never been able to re-replicate it.
No.
She has not.
She got relatively close with the first Fantastic Beasts movie, but then botched it in the next two. Which we don't need to do, but
we don't. I was gonna say, I'm always here for some good Harry Potter slander. That's for damn sure.
Absolutely. I love the series, but I also love to hate the series. So we're always in for a good time.
Yep.
Hell yeah. Boop. Get your
how is it? Is it Stephen Fry narrates the book, right?
No, Jim Dale.
Yeah.
Dale? Oh,
Jim. Good old Jim.
Okay, I thought Stephen Fry did for a moment right there.
That would be fun, though.
He's got such a great voice.
Jim Dale does a great job. I think that's part of
He's
what
like
makes it such
classic.
a good audiobook. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's like the sound of my childhood is Jim Dale reading Harry Potter.
Yes.
Yeah. See, the thing is like things like that, I'm like, is this a good book or is it just nostalgic?
I think, honestly, a huge part of it is nostalgia.
I think that's a huge part of it for me, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
That's like me with Wrinkle in Time. Like, I love that book, but it's I think 90% of it is nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
Just because, that entire series. was, I don't know. It was just but that's the first book was one I specifically carried around with me everywhere when I was a kid.
I think I've only read the first one, and it scared me when I read it.
I personally think it gets there's a total of 5 in the series, and the first 3 follow the same 3 characters. The 4th one is the twin siblings, and then the 5th one, Meg from the first 3, she's older, and it's following like her kids, so it's kind of this generational thing. Yeah, not a lot of people know there are 5 in the series, but it's.
I see. I knew there were multiple.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. I don't know. The part, like the scene where they're in that, like, the dystopian neighborhood type thing and the child gets in trouble, that, something about that, like, scarred me when I was little, and I was like, I don't want to read this anymore.
Like, no more, no more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Traumatizing.
See, I just imagine little child Ron, honestly, looks exactly the same as he is now, just smaller.
Full gray beard. But smaller about it.
And then just like Matilda style, just carrying books around everywhere you go.
That's really precious.
I legit had a book duffel bag that I carried with me everywhere. So
I love that.
That's really precious.
That is great.
Honestly, not much has changed. You're still really precious.
Aw, thanks.
Aw.
So wholesome. All right, Scott, what are you reading?
So I've been reading a lot by an author by the name of Seanan McGuire. And love Seanan McGuire. Just all of the books I've read, I think up to this point it's been 4 books. Because I've read the first book in the Encrypted series, the first book in the October Day series, which is the one I just barely finished. And those are more like modern fantasy kind of stories, and they're like her longer series. I did one called Sparrow Hill Road, which was a really cool one about a hitchhiking ghost.
Oh, that sounds fun.
That one was legit. Like, it wasn't like the time frame of the book kept like switching around from like when she actually died to like present day. And like, so each chapter, it's going to be all these different little scenes from like all throughout her time as a ghost, but like it all leads to a point, and like the whole book led to a point. And there,
nice.
Found out recently there's 2 more books in that series, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to get those and read those.
And didn't you? I think it was you and I were talking about that. Didn't you say that it kind of reminds you a little bit of like Jim Butcher and?
Yeah. So the one I just finished, the Rosemary and Rue, which is the first book in the October Day series. Definitely, it's more of a kind of Fae inspired like murder mystery kind of idea, and fun. So the main character, she's this changeling. She's like half Fae. And, like, has some abilities, but she's not the strongest kind of idea. And I was not ready for that book, because, like, you expect in a lot of series, they're like, okay, we're going to set up a formula, we're going to follow that formula. I have no idea what that formula is going to be, other than that there's going to be, like, a murder investigation. Right. Because the book had so many freaking twists and turns, and it was so beautifully written. There were so many great characters in it. And, like, I want to see where it goes from here, kind of idea. And Seanan McGuire, beautiful. I listened to the audiobook, and the fact that it was voiced by Mary Robinette Kowal, which I love that author as well, it made the book so much better.
The queen.
The queen herself.
She is like another Brandon Sanderson. Like, how does she do all of this stuff?
But, yeah.
Because she's a queen.
But yeah, yes. Seanan, and then the other one that I've recently read, and I want to read the second one of it, she does a kind of a superhero series. She has like her own superhero world, and it's called Velveteen. Is the name of the character. Well, the superhero name of the character anyway. But it's about a washed out, like, retired teenage superhero that just wants to get away from the super corporation that controls all of superhero stuff in the world, kind of idea. And, like, nothing's going right in her life, and it's just everything's going wrong, but like it's really wacky and fun at the same time. Like one of the chapters, it's literally like a flashback to when she was like 13 and got dragged into this little subdimension that's entirely just Halloween. It's like literally Halloween, the dimension. And like she ends up getting called in to like help solve a problem there. But like
Incredible.
all of the world building, and it wasn't that long of a book. It was just a short book, but the world building into it to like make all the superheroes and like their world put together was so well done. So Shauna Maguire, I love Shauna Maguire.
Damn.
Yeah, after talking with you about it last time, I added that author to my list.
Yeah. Really like Shauna Maguire at the moment. That's definitely like Ron said, it just kind of been added to one of my top 20 authors at the moment.
Think. Damn.
But
it got quiet.
Yes, I was waiting to see who.
Yeah, it did get quiet because I thought because I thought that's like something that someone's going to say something. All right,
sorry. I'm in the zone.
Also, because we were asked. We were asked how do you spell that? I've put it into the into the chat.
Wait, how do you spell
which
what?
I did I was not Seanan is how you spell her name. I was like, wow, I was not expecting that. Yeah, but thankfully Google knew what I wanted.
Ooh. Oh, struggling.
All right. So I'll share my other book that I've been reading. I've been reading Ron Chernow's Hamilton.
Oh,
nice, that's a good one.
And ooh, oh boy, that is one. Oh my gosh!
That's a
oh my gosh!
though,
I've actually had students be all like,
Ron Chernow's a biography, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so like I told him like if you think that Hamilton in real life was like if you base your perception of who Hamilton was based on the play, like you are going to be very very mistaken. Like for instance, there's like the whole like there's that famous line of like immigrants, we get the job done. Like Ron Chernow makes a point throughout the series that like Hamilton hated it when anyone brought up the fact that he was an immigrant. And he did his best to hide it from people. So it's all like, yeah, it's like the writer of the musical inserting a little bit more of himself into the character of Hamilton, which is fine because it's I don't go to a musical to learn history.
For
I
like
go to a musical
pure
to be
historical
entertained and wowed
accuracy.
by gorgeous music.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like I can easily divorce myself from historical accuracy when watching stuff like Gladiator and so forth.
For sure.
But here's the thing, like this book it's absolutely worth the read, but you can't just be I don't think you can be an idle historian. You can't even really be an armchair historian. And
yeah, you
really
have to
appreciate this book. Like you can yeah, oh my gosh, you have to like I'll say this, like I am not good when it comes to economics. Like I refuse to teach economics at the school because I'm just all like I tell my students economics is black magic. Like for every example that the textbook gives, I can give you a real life counter example. Oh, so I don't economics turns my head, and there are chapters in the book where you have to know your economics. Otherwise, the things that because he's quoting Hamilton directly. He's bringing in these massive concepts of how banks work, leverage, speculation, capital, all of this all brought into one to show like how the grand machine of capitalism in the late 1700s works, and how Hamilton used his genius of all of these different elements to create a functioning treasury system for a new country that had no idea what it was doing, and where half of the founding fathers distrusted economics, unless it meant money in the hand and slaves in my field. So so like you get all of this fantastic complexity, and it's very well structured. He definitely has Ron Chernow has definitely a great flair for writing a story. Like he's giving you the history, but he's writing it as a story. That's
Oh,
definitely
interesting.
a strength to this book. Otherwise, I would not be able to slog my way through it.
You struggle.
But another thing is this: he loves big words.
Yes.
It's
I think though that's also partly why I like him.
walking thesaurus.
Oh, good heavens.
Have
But
you
like
ever read
him-
David McCullough?
Damn it. Why? There we go.
No, I've not.
I
So-
tried reading 1776 by David McCullough, and very good. It was very good, but it was very dense, and so it was definitely difficult for me to get through, and I never actually finished it. But do you feel like this one is also somewhat dense?
It's definitely dense.
Yeah.
Definitely dense.
As I said, you can't just be a passive historian and try to read this book.
Well, and it's not one you're
If
going to
you-
pick
if
up
you're-
as a
if
light
you're trying
read
to read
either.
it because-
Right.
Oh no. If you are a fan of the play and you pick up this book hoping to get like a similar experience, it's not anything even close. And like where the musical picks up like a quarter of the way into the book. Where because he goes into as much detail as he can about what we can piece together of Alexander Hamilton's past. And so like me as someone who actually did groundbreaking research into history that people either don't understand or don't know very well or don't know at all, like it's like trying to solve like it's like trying to solve a cold murder case. It's like you don't like all you have are like the leftovers from the scene, and like maybe a handful of people who you can still talk to, and that's it. And so like that's it's aggravating, but it's also so much fun to do as a historian. And you can tell that Ron Chernow like is having the time of his life trying to piece together a narrative based off of the fragments that we have of Hamilton's past and what he himself somewhat alludes to when he's an adult. So like that's a ton of fun. But if you're someone who can't get into that kind of like murder mystery think in a history book, you are immediately going to be alienated by some of the stuff in the first chapters. It's a fantastic read, but it's one that you do have to go into kind of knowing what you're getting yourself into, and you have to be willing to kind of put the book down, think about things, or go read something else to help yourself become familiar with these things, because otherwise you're just flying by the seat of your pants. And for a book that is that big and that dense, not many people can do that.
Yeah.
If you like him as an author, which I love him as an author, if you haven't read any by Walter Isaacson, I would highly recommend him. He's my other favorite biographer, because both him and Ron Chernow, they dive into it, and you could tell, like you said, it's a work of passion. It's not like, oh, I want to write this book to make money. It's like, no, they're fascinated with these individuals, and the research they do is phenomenal.
Walter Isaacson, is that what you said?
Yeah, Walter Isaacson has some good ones. He did one on Ben Franklin. He did one on, I think he even did one on like Steve Jobs, which I didn't think I was going to enjoy, but I ended up reading that and liking that one. He did one on Einstein, was probably my favorite one of his. But
I have seen this guy. I saw him in an interview, but I can't recall from where. I just looked him up right now. I'm like, I know I've seen this guy. Okay, I'll have to check him out sometime. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about Hamilton. It has my recommendation, but it has also my warning label
girthy
on it.
girth. It's got girth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's the thing. It's the kind. I will also say this. It is the size of book that my professors had me read back when I was in graduate school. It's the kind of book that I wish my professors had me read back when I was in
Oh.
graduate school, because I had to read books that big, but they were way, way more boring than this.
Hmm.
Ron Chernow is brilliant at creating the narrative. If, like, once you get into it, it's fun. It's
You
dense,
get it.
but it's fun.
Yeah.
The Green Machine and Nature's Metropolis, fascinating books, horribly dull and dense. uh,
No
right.
offense
So
to the
yeah, that's my
writers that wrote it.
all offense to the writers. I had to suffer through it. I had 1 week to read that book.
Oh, that sounds absolutely awful.
Oh, it was the worst. I do not miss graduate school. But yeah,
Suspicious.
that's who's next? Who's got another book to share?
I have a question actually for all of you.
Yeah.
What's a book that you read when you were younger that you felt like maybe shaped you as a human being?
Oh boy, I've got a couple of books.
I've got one definitely.
Yeah. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna quickly see if I can find the exact title, because it's been years since I last read it. I can still picture it clearly in my head, and I freaking love the story. So you got someone else. Someone else
Mine
answer.
still has to be the Bulgarian series by David Eddings, because I don't know how many times I read that series when I was growing up, because like it was just a thing my parents did. We'd sit down, my mom would read a book, and like we went through all the Harry Potter books, but one of them was the Bulgarian series, which they loved, my grandparents loved. Uh, and so like they read it to me when I was 6, and then like once I actually started reading like books myself at that level, it's been almost every year I've read that book, at least like that 5 book series every year. I have taken a little bit break. I haven't read it in like 3 years now, but like it was definitely one that defined helped define me growing up.
Hmm.
It's just like it's comfort, like
Yeah.
anything for me at this point, because like I'll go back into it and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this and I remember that, and I'm like, oh, I miss these characters kind of idea, their family kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say for me, I'd say two books in particular, and then just kind of a series as a whole. Um, the series, I was like really into the Royal Diaries and like Dear America books. That the Royal Diaries were like, this is, I think, what solidified my love for historical fiction. The Royal Diaries like were historical figures through the lens of their diaries. Um, and then the Dear America books were that same concept, but they were fictional characters of like specific points in history. Um, but
I
that to
remember
me,
the Royal Diaries series. I loved that
yeah,
series.
they're so good. They're so good. I think my parents still have them at their house, which is awesome. My sister and I collected a bunch of both series. But that to me is like totally humanized, people and historical events, and made history so like way more not relatable, but like, you know, as a kid it's like, whoa, these real people went through these things. That's crazy. So I'd say those. I'd say I read The Hobbit first when I was in either 6th or 7th grade, and it is now one of my favorite books ever. Um, and and I mentioned earlier Maniac McGee. I remember reading that. We read as a class in like 4th or 5th grade or something. And that was the first time like a book made me feel some type of way, like melancholy, I guess. I don't know how to describe how that book made me feel, but it was so like it dealt with a lot of things, a lot of like more serious topics through the lens of a child.
Mm-hmm.
That were so like were very thought provoking. And so reading that as a kid, it just was one of those stories that stuck with me because you feel so much for this kid that I don't know, I'm like, wow, that really I'm a new woman because of that book, honestly. So good.
Mhm.
So yeah, those are my 3 picks.
Yeah. For me, honestly, a big one was Artemis Fowl. I think that was
One.
one of the books that like really, like I said, I did not like reading growing up just because there was a lot of stress involved with it, especially with school and being a very slow reader. I always felt like I was the only one left in the class to read X handout or whatever, and I always felt really stressed whenever I had to read. But Artemis Fowl was one of those books that made me realize that like reading can be enjoyable when you take it at your own pace, And
Yeah.
that was when I kind of realized that I had loved stories, because even though I haven't always loved books, I've always loved stories, and I've always loved,
Mm-hmm.
especially, Zelda or Mario or um, whatever games I was playing as a kid, because that's honestly where I did most of my reading was playing Zelda, and
Yeah.
um, so growing up, like that's when I discovered like reading has great stories in it, and that was the book that I like hyper fixated on and actually read, and so that's a big one that has really changed who I am, I think, and not only my it's kind of adjusted my trajectory in life, I guess you could say, because of that.
Hmm.
Um, Other than that, I can't really think of any others. I'm sure there are, but yeah, I can't think.
That's
That's
okay.
okay.
It's definitely good answers. And
Yeah.
did you find out, Lars, the one you were thinking of?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a couple like none of them are actually like as in depth as those books, but like as a kid, these just some of these books just absolutely pulled me in, and like looking back at it now, like I can kind of see where I'm like, yeah, you know what, I can see where I get certain tendencies in my own writing from. So like one book I read until the book fell apart was Mike Mulligan and his steam shovel.
Hmm.
I read that repeatedly, all like who knows, like from when I was like 2 years old, probably up until like 10. Even though it's like it's meant for like 4 to 5 year olds, just because like yeah, it's just great. And it's just a fun, nice story of a steam shovel and its owner who suddenly find themselves out of work. You actually get to watch other steam shovels die. Thing about it is actually a really brutal. It's a really brutal
Damn.
book, and it ends in a way that you don't expect. But everything turns out all right in the end. And and ever since then, like those are stories that I actually do enjoy. Like I don't partake like I'll appreciate it when a book ends happy, but like I see it coming. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Ah, okay, I saw that coming, but it's happy, so whatever." But if it's not the ending that I expected, but it's still a happy ending, like that's when I'm like, that was good. You took me to a place I wasn't expecting to go. Like Mike Mulligan and the Steam Shovel, and that's kind of like a little bit of my perspective on life is just like, so you don't know where you're going to end up, but if you can be happy, then that's good. And I mean, we're trying to become a full time writer is definitely not something that younger me would ever have considered. Yet
Mm-hmm.
here I am. Um, but the book that I had to go back and find its title is The Talking Eggs, a folk tale from the American South. This was put together like it's based on plenty of other stories. Like it's basically a universal story, but it was written by Robert D. Sansauchi or Soki. I have no idea how you actually supposed to say his last name. Um, but it's a story of a girl who uh she's got a horrible mom, a horrible older sister. She goes out into the woods and meets this old woman who asks for some water, and she gives her some water to drink, and the old lady is all like, "You seem like a nice child. I'm going to take you over to my house for the night." And as she's taking him, she's like, "If you come to my house, you have to promise that you won't laugh, you won't scream, and like something else." And so the girl's like, "I promise." And so she goes to this old lady's house. The animals are bizarre and strange. At one point, the old woman takes off her head to comb her hair.
Hello, what?
And it's all like it's all like really insane magical stuff. And and the girl does everything that she said that she was going to do, and she helps out around the house. She, even though she's scared of when the old woman takes off her head, she doesn't scream, and she's nice to her. And so the old woman is just all like, because you've treated me this way, things are going to be mighty fine for you now. And she then said, "I want you to go into the hen house, and you're going to find that all of like my three-legged, four-legged, one-legged, six-legged chickens have all laid talking eggs." And she then said the there's eggs that look regular who are going to say take me, and there's golden and jeweled eggs that say don't take me. Don't take the golden eggs. Only take the plain eggs. And so the girl goes in and she's tempted because it's like a fortune in golden jeweled eggs, talking eggs right there. And she's like, "Oh, I could make a lot of money and mama would finally be happy with me." But she's like, "Okay, like no, I'm going to take regular eggs." And then the old lady then says, "Good. Now then, toss them over your shoulder as you go home." And so as she's walking back home, she's tossing the eggs over her shoulder, and as they break, old coins come spilling out, fine, beautiful dresses, and then ultimately a really nice buggy and a horse come on out. And so she gathers up all the stuff and she rides back home like a rich lady, and she looks healthier, she looks more beautiful now and everything. And so the mom then tells her daughter, she's like, "You know what? Like you got to find this old woman, and you got to like get those eggs from her, and then I'll steal everything from your younger sister, and then we can go and we can live in this big city like fine ladies." And and just like any good fairy tale, the wicked sibling, of course, gets their just desserts, and
Good.
like all hell breaks loose because she breaks all of her promises to the old lady. She actually steals the old lady's head.
Oh.
And then she takes all the golden eggs, and like the plagues come out of the eggs and like chase her and her mother into the woods. And Blanche, the main character, realizes that life isn't going to get any better at home, and so she takes the old woman's gifts and she rides off into the city and lives a fine life as a young woman. And and like it's a fairy tale, but it's a fairy tale that once again, kind of like Mike Mulligan and Steam Shovel, is one that I wasn't expecting. And it's got a good moral. Like if you actually read the other, like the fairy tales, like the Grimm fairy tales,
They're
there's
dark as
not
hell.
they're yeah, and they don't really have happy messages for you. The Grimm fairy
No.
tales are the Grimm fairy tales reflect the dark culture of the people in the Black Forest and the surrounding areas. That's what they represent. It's not a happy place to be. But when you look at the talking eggs, it communicates that if you're good, if you keep your promises, if you follow the rules, life does get better. And it does, and it's not like her mom and her sister suddenly love her. Like no, she actually has to leave behind that life, but like she has a chance. She has a chance at a better life. And like there's just something about that, like as a kid, it resonated with me. I was like, this is a fantastic fairy tale. And I've come back to it again and again over the years, even though it's been a long time since I last read it. And it's such a heartwarming fairy tale, despite the fact that it very clearly has some very spooky elements to it. And if you get the book, it's all illustrated, and it like the illustrations are just beautiful and creepy at the same time.
Oh, I love that.
So it's the Talking Eggs, definitely worth reading.
Tink, tink,
Wow.
tink.
Is there any other books that we want to touch on before we close out tonight?
I mean, I have not talked about my books
Oh, let's hear them.
at all. So, I have been reading a lot lately. I finished. Oh, gosh, I'm trying to think. Just within the last couple weeks, I have finished Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis.
Ooh.
And it's not my favorite work by him, to be honest. There were parts, I mean, as someone who is a Christian, there were points that I was like, yeah, I vibe with that, and other things I was like, I do not vibe with that. Definitely recommend. I like the Screw Tape Letters a lot more, but that's neither here nor there.
Have you ever read
Let's see.
the Great Divide, or the Great Divorce? Great Divorce, I think it was.
Great
I have
Divorce.
not.
By him. That was a fascinating short read. It's been a long time since I've read it, but I remembered I mean, it's a super short book, but it was just
Still
a really
worth it?
definitely worth it. It's like, I think it's about, if I remember correctly, it's about a guy who takes a bus from from hell to heaven, and like the demon, and there's like a demon that like talks to him and like tells him that he's not worthy to go to heaven, so he should just turn around, and so it's just like his experience as he goes from hell to heaven or something.
Yeah,
Read. I want to reread it because it's been years, but
see, that sounds really good. I think I like C.S. Lewis more when he uses more of like an allegory approach to things, or makes it more of like more of a story twist. So like with the Screw Tape Letters, it's like through the eyes of a demon, rather than like Mere Christianity is him just spouting off his opinions about how he thinks everyone should be, and that would make the world better. And it's like, okay, interesting take. Yeah. So, but it was, still good, still worth it. I finished Where the Crawdads Sing. That was
I really enjoyed that
absolutely
one.
so excellent. It was so excellent.
poetic.
It is. Oh yeah, at the very end I was like, "Damn, girl. Good for you." Very satisfying. That was very good. I'm trying to think. I think that was the last audiobook, because I'm currently listening to The Sandman. I'm probably 2/3 of the way through Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, which it's like it's like the fancy version where it's all theatrical. It's super good, very well produced. It's like listening to an audio play, basically. But
I love
for
Neil
those,
Gaiman.
I love Neil Gaiman, and he just does so good. This story takes place in the DC universe, for those who are unaware. So like, the characters are mentioned. Batman's mentioned. There's a story where Arkham is mentioned, like that sort of thing. But it's just, he does such a good job with his world building, and just so good. Which, coincidentally, I finished Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman just this past Sunday.
That is a fun book.
It is such a fun book, and I feel like I was just always like saying something in the chat about it, because I was like, holy crap, I love this book. I have decided that I wanted to do more of like a Neil Gaiman deep dive. Last year I read Coraline and Norse mythology.
Oh, that was
which
fun.
is really fun. Yeah, like it's so really fun. You're literally just learning about Norse gods, but he writes it in such a way that it makes it so fun to read, because I just love his writing style.
Yeah.
He's a fun read. So I was like, I'm gonna read more by him. So hence Neverwhere, which I got the illustrated version from Barnes and Noble. Highly recommend that. I'm planning on this year alone. I want to read Stardust, Ocean at the End of the Lane. Yeah, I've heard it's great. Shoot, there were like 2 more.
I really recommend.
Graveyard Book.
Oh yeah. I really recommend his short stories. I read Fragile Things the other year, and it was so good. Had so many great little stories in it.
I mean, honestly, if you're like, hey, you should read this by Neil Gaiman, I'm gonna do it. So,
Yeah.
like, this year is my year to do such things. So that's kind of where I'm at. I try to do like an Audible, try to listen to something on Audible and then read something physical. So I'm also reading Circe by Madeline Miller.
That is a good one.
That is very good. It's because I also am a fan of Greek mythology, and I love, like, I feel like we don't look enough at female characters in Greek mythology, and so reading this book has been very, like, good for my own story. I want to write about Medusa, but Circe, I think, is just a really fascinating character, and so, yeah, that's my bedtime reading. Keep him busy.
Real quick, because you said you enjoy, especially from like, there's, and if you frequent Barnes and Noble, they have a book of the month pick called Pandora's Jar. I think
heard about that.
I really enjoyed it. I think you might like that one too.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna write this down. Actually, has anyone been taking notes of the books that we've been talking about?
I've put down the names of some of the authors in the chat.
Okay.
We can always listen back through and write down all the titles and post it on our Discord.
Yeah, because there's definitely been a lot tonight that I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm going to add this to my secondary reading list, because I already have this year's reading list figured out. But yeah, there's just been a lot talked about tonight that I'm like, those sound really fun. I want to read them. Yeah. So, excellent. It's a good year for books, my dudes.
It's a great year for books.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a great place to kind of wrap up, unless there's anything else pressing that anybody wants to talk about.
Nope, I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to participate. I enjoy stuff like this.
Man.
Thank you for coming. We love you, Ron. We love having you on. So
I love all of you guys. So
Ron's just awesome.
We should have Ron on for, like, in the future for, like, a here's a book based on your personality. Like Ron reads us and then so, like, here's a book.
Love that idea. No pressure though.
All right.
Well, I just wanted, as a final sound bit for us here, even though we are a writing channel, or more specifically a story channel, I guess, like, all of us here are writers and or at varying different junctures in that journey.
Storytellers.
We're all storytellers on this eternal road, but just that reading is
an adventure.
It's an adventure, and it's integral to the abilities of a writer, and so it's good to find, it's good to talk about and to find books that are good, so that you can know what an example of a good book is, and you can use that as not a stepping stone, as a litmus test.
You had it right.
Good job.
Yeah. So, if you're trying to be a writer and you don't read,
Step one, read.
Step one, read. You will not get better if you don't read. That is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, audiobooks count as reading. I'm gonna say it. It's not as actual reading, but it still does count.
There is so much merit.
I'll go so far as to say it's the same.
I agree.
For that.
I agree. Because
that makes me feel better, because I always feel guilty about reading audiobooks and not
never feel guilty about enjoying a good story. Period.
Exactly. Well, like, and there's some people who just don't have the time. Like my sister, she's a full-time mom with 4 crazy kids and 4 crazy cats and a crazy husband and all these other things on her plate.
Absolutely.
She has very little time to sit down and read a book. But when she's traveling, she's always listening to a book, and she gets through so many amazing stories. So,
yep.
Same. I love audiobooks. The only downside to audiobooks is that you don't get the typography experience, that you do with
Yeah.
normal books.
But there are people that do struggle with that.
Yeah,
like me.
absolutely. Exactly.
And that's why you have Camille, who's a grammar Nazi, and will make sure that your typography is actually good.
Yes.
Thank you, Camille.
Coming after you and Jed, both your asses.
Yeah. Hey, I've gotten significantly better.
You have. Jed hasn't.
Jed hasn't. Jed is eternal, though. Jed is the universal constant.
He's an eternal constant.
Yeah. Well, anywho,
Jed.
thank you so much for joining us. For those who joined us, we had a pretty good show up today. Typography is... Sorry, I should answer this real quick. Typography is the actual, the way the words go onto the page, if that makes sense. So, your, paragraphing, your sentence, not necessarily structure. It's not necessarily the way you would read it out loud, but it's the way you read it on the page. So...
And it's the way it looks too. So you're gonna look at the how the individual letters look, the font, how that all adds up
The
together.
aesthetic,
The font, the type, the setting, the space, all that.
Yeah.
The vibes. It's the writing vibes.
And there's some books that are just they're a piece, they're a work of art unto themselves.
Yes.
How they're put together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you open a book and there's no paragraph breaks. I'm gonna close that real fast. I'm not there.
Yeah, that's gonna be a hard no.
That's gonna be a hard no.
My brain needs
typography. I feel like is a very underlooked aspect to books. The way sentences are broken down, the way paragraphs are broken down, the way grammar is used. That's all included in typography. Typography is just the art of typeset, essentially.
Yeah.
And so that means a lot. And as a graphic designer, formerly graphic designer, not really anymore, I get passionate about that. But anyway, thank you.
Anywho's
Thank you for joining us. As always, the party will never stop on the Discord, so you may join us there. Links in the description, as always. Anything else anybody wants to say?
Bada bing, bada boom.
I'll say I'm good. I'm good. So my brain turns to mush. Right
So there's only two words that truly need to be said.
Yes.
And that is